Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your producer and host of the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. This is your motivational podcast of people's incredible journeys. Oh, yeah, let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would love to welcome Melissa T. Shultz. Has a new picture book titled, What Will I Do If I Miss You? This picture book helps families navigate separation anxiety with love and confidence. And in between the book lies an imagination that serves as a well where we can all drink anytime we would like. She invites us to remember the thrill of firsts. What can you try now that would elicit that same emotion? Welcome, Melissa. So nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. What a pleasure. And so, so many questions here. First, we were talking behind the scenes before we started recording. You're saying that this is your first children's book. What inspired you to write a children's book?
My son is actually the reason that I wrote the book. It's based on a true story. And when he was little, he actually said the title of the book. He did not know at the time it was going to be the title of a book. But it impacted me so much that I wrote it down and thought, I'm going to get back to that at some point. And I did. Many years later, he's now a grown man at 32 years old.
That's incredible. And so when you heard him say this future title of your book, did you know then that it would be a book someday, or that it just felt like it would become something someday?
It felt like it would become something. It was one of those lines that seemed so lyrical and so beautiful at the time, and it moved me so much that he could just be that sort of pure and thoughtful, that he was able to express the feelings that he was having that way. That I thought, this is something that other children feel. And I remembered feeling the same thing as a little girl, but that never would have been something that I could have said out loud. I don't think our generation was talking about things like that.
Do you remember how he said it?
It was very much like in the book. It was a very quiet moment before bed. And I think that's that time of the night the children, and maybe probably all of us, are more vulnerable and we're thinking about things. Mm-hmm. And he just looked straight at me with those gigantic brown eyes of his and said, "But Mama, what will I do if I miss you?" So, and I knew it at that moment, I needed to take a moment and really consider my answer. Yeah. And that's when we worked out this sort of signal that the book talks about.
Melissa, before we talk about the signal of the book, what led him to ask that question?
Oh, we were switching how he was staying at home with us and me, and his schedule was going to change. He was about to start what was at that point preschool. Mm-hmm. And we call it day school, I think, now, because there's so many variations of it. But things were going to change. And so he wasn't going to see me as much. So he was worried. He wanted to know what he would do if he missed me. So, yeah.
I'm wondering, obviously I'm just thinking out loud here, but I'm just wondering if he already had, because he was about 5, you said 4 or 5?
I think he was about 4. Yeah, maybe 3, but somewhere between 3 and 4.
Had he expressed before that he missed you?
Not like that. No, not that directly.
It's really interesting that at that age he was able to have a thought and also have an initiated feeling of missing. And so, as you said, that question he asked was pure and thoughtful, very, very pure. And in that purity gave you a challenge to how to respond to such honesty.
He did. And, he's still that same person. And he will ask very specific, direct, meaningful questions that often throw me off track a little bit. But he cuts right to the chase.
Well, that's beautiful. So it was inspired by your son. What will I do if I miss you? So what's the message of the book, and why write it now, 30 something, 30 years later?
Oh, I've been writing for adults for most of my life, and I had always wanted to write for children. There were lots of stories we made up together, my children and I. But this was an opportunity, I think, to perhaps help parents who are going through a similar process. That's something we all go through when there are transitions in our life, and
Sure.
we
Yeah.
can't be there all the time, and children need to be comfortable going to spend their days with other people in other ways. And I thought it might be an opportunity to help. So, and we had come up with a signal that worked. And I also was thinking about how that same signal um, helped in some way. I didn't do it in an obvious way, but when my kids went off to college, I was starting to go kind of in reverse. I was thinking, but what will I do if I miss you? And I thought about this signal that we shared when they were little and how I probably needed to do it in reverse with them. So it seemed like a good time.
What kind of signal?
So in the book, the mom has the little boy put his hand on his heart and says, "Can you feel it beating? Thump thump." And he does. And so the idea is, whenever you miss me, put your hand over your heart, and I will put my hand over mine, and I will be able to feel your love, and you will be able to feel mine, and your heart is always with you, is the idea. So it's a constant reminder that we're never apart, and all you have to do is put your hand over your heart. And we had a little okie dokie, and he said okie dokie, and so that was our signal. So for the first week or two at school, and in the book, the little boy does this. He's got his hand on his heart quite a bit. So I was worried. I wanted to let the teachers know that if he had his hand on his heart, he was not in trouble.
Yeah.
It was just him working through this process. And I think by the end of the first week or so, it was there less and less and less because he was using it, that hand,
Yeah.
to have some fun. So that was a good sign.
That's a really good sign. And so what's the biggest takeaway with this book for children? What's the approximate, I mean, you're saying that this could be basically any transition. Doesn't it specifically have to be
I
five,
think
six
it's
years old
any
children?
time that you're going to be apart and you have that fear. And once you realize that you, your heart is with you all the time, you've got this heart, and you think of it as sort of a way to connect to a loved one that maybe isn't with you physically. I
Yes.
think there's this incredible sense of relief, and you get a little more, feel a little more confident about being away from that parent or whoever it is that's the person that's your primary caretaker. And so I encourage parents to use this signal often. So whether it's a sleepover or they're going to a grandparent's house, or you going away for the day or half, whatever it is, you just put your hand on your heart, you send the signal,
Mhm.
you send it back, and it's a nice thing.
I love how you said that. You send a signal because the heart space is one of the biggest signals or the biggest satellite that we have in our body. It's a receiver and it's also a transmitter. And it's bigger than our brain and bigger than our mind. So, I mean, it's really intuitive of you to have done this and to keep doing that. And you know, as you're saying that, my mother's 75, right? Obviously, and I'm 45. I'm not a little kid, but I feel like doing this with her.
It's a really nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Somebody had told me when my son was very little, I'm a big fan of paying it forward. And a lot of parents paid it forward with me when my children were little. And that is, their children were a little bit older than mine. And so there was one woman who said to me that her child had been worried about being apart, and she said, I'm always with you, was the idea. As long as my heart's beating, you'll always feel me with you. And I thought about that at that moment when my son said to me, "What will I do if I miss you?" And that was sort of my brain going, "Oh, what about this concept? What if I just talk about his heart and my heart?"
Yeah.
And that kind of, is what inspired me to have him put his hand on his heart and start talking about it. So, um, yeah,
So beautiful.
hearts are, they mean a lot of things. There's lots of metaphors for a good reason.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely coming from the heart space. I love this. And so I was reading, thanks so much for sharing about your new book. It's really inspiring. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Thanks for asking.
I was reading your article online on Provoked magazine where you had this incredible interview and you're talking about your book, but then you also started talking about something that caught me off guard. I was wondering if we could talk about this idea of aging backwards and also inviting people to go back to the thrill of their firsts. So I wonder if we could dive into that.
Sure, I'd love to. That topic is near and dear to me too. And some of it happened as a result of writing this
I
children's
was gonna
story.
ask you that. I was gonna ask you if going back to writing a children's book now that your child is now an adult person, is this where your idea came from? Is this how the fruition came to be? I mean, kind of makes sense to me, and if I can feel into that.
Well, it was, I felt like I was living in two worlds when the book came out and I started doing readings. I probably did about 10 or 12 readings over 2 months. And well, those readings were to children, obviously, and to their parents. And they'd come together as families. And as I began doing this sort of tour with the book and seeing families interact, I realized, so I was sort of living squarely in that world of children, and yet I was at an age and a time in my life which was sort of the opposite. And when a lot of people think, I think women in particular are fading into the woodwork. Like this is a time for us to kind of scale down as we age. And I realized how important it is to rekindle some of those thoughts and feelings and curiosities that we have as a child, because that's what I was watching in front of me every time I'd go to read these stories. And it was such a wonderful feeling to watch children respond to the story and their sort of sense of wonder,
Mhm.
just any ideas that are new and what's she going to say and what's the boy going to do. And it was such a beautiful experience and really took me back and made me think about when I was a child and the kinds of things that made me want to be curious. And I wanted to do the opposite of what a lot of society seems to think that we're going to do, especially, like I said, as women, and sort of fade away, that perhaps we've already had these careers and now it's sort of time to, be in a quieter time of our lives. And I think to age well means to be curious and stay curious and try new things. For instance, writing this children's book that I always wanted to write. So I kind of tried to lean into the whole experience of being around children and letting that sort of be contagious, but in a good way.
Oh, I absolutely love this, Melissa. That's really incredible, and it sparks, my interest too. So I mean, I could just feel that in order for us to, well, I guess I'm being curious myself here. Let's just hypothetically say the person's, in their later stages of life. I want to say a lot later, maybe 70s, late 70s or so. How can somebody at that age where they're slowed down so much and so comfortable where they're at, how can they start to get back into that wondrous, curious spot in their life again to spark a little bit more life into their life?
Well, you know, one of the things I kept thinking about, because I don't have grandchildren and I'm not around little children anymore, it was I loved going to these story times. So I was going as a reader, but I noticed there were lots of other people that would sort of mill around, and some of them were coming just to hear story times. And those things are all the time at bookstores, if you think
I
about it.
love that.
And there were a lot of grandparents that did end up coming too, which I just loved to see. It wasn't just, the parents. I don't mean just, but it was, grandparents came with their
Oh,
grandchildren as well to come. I think doing some, things like that, where you can be in those environments with young people is really important. But, think back, I think, to when you were a child and what kinds of things made you happy. And what kinds of things did you do that made you feel like um, your true self, the self that was not worried about how you looked or worried about how you might be judged. You were just kind of free of all of that. And if you can, touch on some of those things again, I know not everybody is going to be in a place where they can go roller skating and
right.
rollerblading. But I think anything that sparks joy, and because I think we forget about
Yeah,
that, and our lives get more and more narrow, and that's our
right.
assumption about
Yes,
what's going to happen
right.
and what's supposed to happen. But the more we turn inward, the harder it is, I think, for us to spark joy and remember those feelings and be carefree. The other day, I took my dog for a walk, and I thought the dog almost looked like it was skipping, and I thought, I think I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try this, and I did. And just skipped a little bit, and I'm sure I looked absolutely ridiculous. Um,
But it
but it
felt
felt
amazing, right?
it felt so good.
Hey, I
It,
want to
it
try it now. I haven't skipped in so long.
I wasn't even sure that I remembered like the mechanism for something
Right,
that seems so natural to us when we were younger.
right.
But just that little bit kind of just thrilled me. Um,
I
and so
love that you said that,
anything we can
Melissa.
do like that, I think, or take a moment and write down something that makes you laugh, and try to write a short story, a little poem, a little rhyme. Play games, play board games, play
Yeah,
whatever games, not the same old games that you see in the movies,
right.
that somebody's
Play new
playing.
games.
Make things up, be silly.
You know what? It just reminded me of recently this Halloween. My mother and I were giving out candy, and we were listening to the Monster Mash, and she's like, "Oh, I was like 15, she was born 1950, whatever when this song came out, or she was 10, I don't know." But she said there was a dance for the Monster Mash, and she was doing
Oh,
these
there
things with her
was.
feet. So I
Yeah.
started recording her because I saw her light up in a way that I don't see her light up often. And I was recording her feet, and she was trying to remember, and she was laughing so hard and trying to like do this Monster Mash dance. And I just saw
That's
her young
right.
at that point, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're bringing this up because go back to those times that brought you bliss and happiness and joy, and that's aging gracefully, and that's the idea of aging backwards, going back to the things that brought you that bliss.
Yes, and I like the idea of aging backwards because sometimes if you think too much about the natural direction we're all going, that in itself will stop you when you start doing this sort of self protection thing, and a little bit that goes a long way. But so does this. A little bit of this aging backwards goes a long way. So the whole thing for me was, you know children are inspiring, and if you can look at them even when they're not your own and think of it that way and kind of pick up on that joy that they have, try to catch some of it, and I think you'll find you can run with it, and those lots of creative energy that can come from that. And it helps too if you find a person or people, whether it's one person or a bunch of people or a big group, that want to rekindle that and keep that alive with you.
Oh wow, I'm feeling inspired here. You just sprung another memory. So this summer, and I have to tell you because you said children are inspiring. And I had this experience for the first time ever in my life. I've had a first. I had a first. And I went swimming with one of my friends. One of my friends has two babies, a 3-year-old toddler and a 1-year-old boy, and they're both boys. And I went swimming with the 3-year-old. We were swimming, and I was playing shark. And at one point, I don't know what I said. I mean, he had his floaties, and I'm holding them in front of me. I said something that he cracked up. He tilted his head back, and he was laughing so hard. And at that moment, I paused, And I couldn't believe that he thought me calling him Shark Boy or whatever it was the funniest thing to him. And so in that, I started laughing, and I started laughing so hard with this boy. And it was like the sun, it was the most present I could be. The sun was on us, the water was splashing, he's tilting his head back, he's cracking up. And I started laughing so hard, my tears were running down. And
Uh,
I didn't understand it. And then I just hugged him afterwards, and I felt this bliss. And that night, I remember just feeling it made my entire day. That night, I went to sleep thinking, whoa, this love that this little boy brought me just because he thought something was funny.
yeah.
Something that I wouldn't laugh on a regular day. What's the big deal about Shark Boy? But for him, it was so funny and so beautiful. And I just felt so alive at that time, at that moment. And so, yeah, my laughter was brought with tears. And I know he didn't notice my tears. I mean, we were wet and splashing around.
Right.
But
Right.
even if he did, I don't think he'd know the difference because at that age, you're just laughing, you know? So, thanks for reminding me about that. But children are incredibly inspiring like that. And I felt so motivated to seize the rest of my life, after that
Yeah, no,
experience.
that is exactly it. And I'm so glad yes, you in the article I talk about these firsts and remembering firsts. And so, for some of the children that came into the story times I did, there were some firsts that were going on, and that's what you could see in their energy and their eyes. And so thinking back to those first, the first time you tried something, and the reason for that is because when we have those first, isn't that like this moment where everything lights up? Like, oh, what is this thing? What is this food? Who is this person? What is this place? What
Right.
is this game? What is this feeling? If you can kind of take yourself back there, boy, just thinking about some of those firsts, even if you're alone in your room, what was a first that you had that you just, you can't stop thinking about? Sometimes I can remember I love a cookie. Man, you want to make me happy. You can give
Chocolate
me a
chip?
cookie. I'm a sucker for a cookie. And so I can remember the first time I had a cookie, and it was a chocolate chip cookie. And I remember thinking, because we weren't allowed to eat sweets very much, what is this thing? And I had another one that was a biscuit. I didn't grow up in any place where there were biscuits. And I was like 25 years old, and I had my first biscuit in the South at a restaurant. And I thought, I cannot believe my mother kept me from these. She never made biscuits. We never went anywhere that had biscuits. And it was an extraordinary thing to me. It was just, I could taste all of it. And I went on to learn how to make biscuits, and I still make them to this day because that first. It was so joyous.
Yeah, that's incredible. You first inspire you and motivate you to do more with yourself.
Yeah.
You know what else I was thinking as you were saying that about the first? That there's been so many times where I've had firsts and there was a resistance first to that first.
You mean
For
an
example,
anxiety, like a worry to have one?
almost, for example, let's say that let's just say let's give the example, let's go with the example I just gave with the little boy in the pool. So my anxiety at first is, can I handle my friend and a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old? Will I have energy to hang out with them all day in this hot summer day? There was
Ah,
like this anxiety, will I have this energy?
right.
I've got this disease and I inject blah blah blah. Am I going to be safe? Am I going to be okay? Of course I'm going to be okay, especially when there's joy and love. But there's initially there was a little bit of anxiety, and I've noticed
Sure.
that that's been true for me. I don't know if it's true for others, and maybe you could chime in and let me know if it's true for you. But there have been times where I'm resistant to doing something new or experiencing something for the first time, and every time I end up saying yes, I have such an incredible experience.
Well, because it's a first, logically, that makes absolute sense, and is I think a very normal thing. Because you're going to have some anxiety about it. You don't know what the result is going to be, and there's some pressure for you, especially if you're going to be around a 1-year-old, 3-year-old. You want them to enjoy you too, and you don't
Right.
want to do anything wrong, whatever wrong means. But
Right.
you want to make them happy, and
Right.
so and you want them to like you. So, and kids do
Yeah.
have attention spans that come and go pretty
Right.
frequently. So you were right on target with that, but that's the thing about children is they're pretty accepting, I
They
think.
are they
Yeah.
are really accepting. Yeah, they
Yeah.
are.
They're just happy to have attention, and to have somebody engage with them. And oftentimes all it is that need to do, especially with a 1-year-old, is make a funny face, and they're down with it. That's it. They're
Right.
good.
They're simple that way. It's so
Yeah,
incredible.
that's the purity. That's the wonderful part.
I think it's great, just bringing up this children being inspiring because so this weekend my cousin, she has a 1 year old, and it was his first birthday, and I don't remember the first time I went to a first birthday, and so most of my other cousins that have kids, they're all in their teens now, so there's a lot of little ones everywhere, and they were playing music, and I seen the mothers, and I seen my mother's generation, people in their 70s and above, and they were loving it, and they were smiling, and they were observing, and I could just see them in wonder, as you said, as they were watching these little kids playing drums and listening to the tambourine, and it was just it's a very peaceful place to be.
Was there a smash cake involved in that first
Yeah, there
birthday?
was. There was a smash cake. Yeah.
Yeah, I, I've become aware of them.
Yeah.
And it's pretty funny. I think my kids there it wasn't a thing when mine were little, but I did a pie, a very
Yeah.
basic pie, because I heard you let them kind of go to town. So it was like vanilla pudding, I think, and I sprayed whipped cream on top, thinking I put them in this little high chair with a big bib, and they went to town. They had their hands in there, and they were doing their face, and it was everywhere.
That
The
sounds
smash cake, I think, it's smaller, right? It's a
it's a
smaller,
smaller
yeah.
cake. Yeah, yeah.
That seemed probably smarter.
Yeah.
But
Oh, interesting to be so curious about something like that. I should try something like that. You're saying that I've always been resistant to having a pie being thrown at my face. I always have. But why? I mean, why am I resistant to that? What's the big deal? It's all in fun, right?
that was one of the things that I thought that's something I don't want either. I don't know. It probably there's a better way to eat pie than
Right.
having it thrown in your face.
Oh, that's a crack up.
That one I understand completely.
So tell us more. What's one of your firsts that you remember that lights you up that you can bring up aside from the cookie?
Oh, I'm probably I mean, food definitely is fun for me. And I think also because I like uh, to bake. So I remember my Easy Bake Oven that was a big first for me. That was a thing at the time. I don't know. Are you familiar with them?
I've heard of them, but not personally. I mean, I know the term. Was that like the 80s maybe?
Oh, it was way before
Before
then.
they
Yeah. They were these little toy ovens, but they actually, I think they had a light bulb that heated the little bread up, and there was a tiny little mix and a little tiny little tray that you would make this little cake. It was very flat, and my father very nicely would eat them. And I think back about how brave he was, because gosh, a light bulb baked cake could not have been very
No,
tasty, but I
no,
was
no.
very excited about it. Um, Things like roller skating and hula hooping. Um, I remember my first ballet class. Lots of nerves when you talk about that. I was very worried about it. I hadn't done it, and there were going to be a lot of other people there. And, didn't know if I was doing things right, because up until then I had just been dancing all over the place. And my parents were like, we better get her in a class, because she's got to stop dancing everywhere. Um, but I had rules suddenly, so I was worried about that. But lots of memories like that. And then doing things professionally for the first time, and first stories that I wrote, and first essays that I got published, and going through that process. Everything usually involves something that I've learned from. Um, I think that's the biggest thing, and you don't realize you're learning at the time. I think every decade or so we reassess and we realize the times in our life where we've learned something and progressed in some way. Either emotionally we progressed, or physically we progressed, intellectually we progressed. I like to think that every 10 years or so I try new things, so that I make sure that I'm testing myself, and so that I can grow. And I like to wake up in the morning with something to look forward to that's new. And even if it's the tiniest thing, but I think that that kind of keeps us feeling alive.
It definitely keeps us feeling alive. And what's something that you're think, or do you have a list of firsts to come in the near future?
I have projects. So I do think having projects helps me in particular focus. I have another children's book that I've been working on. And I know people think, oh my gosh, it's, children's book, picture books, 32 pages. How hard can it be? But it's interesting because it does take a long time
It does.
to get your story told because you have so many less words to tell it in. So
Yeah.
for a picture book, traditionally, like the ones I'm talking about, you have about 500 words to tell a story that that strikes a universal chord. And I like to think that they have like the "What Will I Do If I Miss You" has something in there that helps someone in some way, the child that's reading it, the parent that's reading it, the family that's reading it. So I'm thinking about it a lot. So I have another story that I'd like to do, um, and that I hope will come to life soon.
Well, it's already coming to life. It's already alive in your heart. It's
There you
already
go. That
actually,
was beautiful. That was a very nice thing to say. Thank you.
it's already there.
It is alive in my heart, and I want to get it right. So that's another thing too. I think as we age, because we know so much, just by virtue of living, there's this need to make things perfect, and learning to let go of that so that you can release something, so that that fear of making a mistake or not getting it exactly right, you don't want that to hinder you and keep you from moving forward. That is something that I'm working on. That's a harder project than writing the story itself.
It could be challenging, learning when to let go and knowing that that's,
And just doing it,
yeah,
just getting something done and sort of trusting in the process. And whatever it is that you're doing, there's usually someone on the other end of it professionally that will say, hey, this is good. Now here's some ideas on how to make it better. So if you're willing to do that, you got to just let the next person help you so that you work as a team. I
yeah,
think in any business, in any profession.
yeah, work as a team collaboratively with an open heart, right?
Well, especially with creativity, because I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
you know, and you need that inspiration. Again, if you narrow your world so much that you're kind of working just on your own, or you're not sharing some of those thoughts and those firsts that you are, rekindling with
Right.
anyone, it's not as rich and rewarding, I think.
Absolutely agree with you. Definitely. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that. And so what's going on now with your book? Are you still touring? Are you still doing readings?
No, not right now. I probably will get back to doing them. I took a little break in between. When the book first came out, that was the right time for that book in particular. It's, I think, especially helpful for back to school. But so there'll be another round, I think, before the fall starts again in the coming year. Um, but no, that's it for the tour so far.
Well, thanks so much, Melissa. I mean, this has been really inspiring and motivating, and my first time meeting you. So, I mean, it's because, going back to the first. Yes, did you have a question or?
I was going to say, you're inspiring and motivating,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I'm very appreciative of you and your honesty and your openness and the work that you're doing professionally, and how
Thank
you're
you.
sharing this podcast. This is what it's about. You're a communicator, and you're
Thank you.
willing to share your life story to help others. And I think that is what it's all about, especially as we get older. That's a gift we can pass along to others, to keep reminding people
Yes.
to find that spark. And I think that spark helps others when perhaps theirs has has been flickering and
Oh, yeah,
isn't quite there, right? So
absolutely.
when you have others, if you're ever wondering and there's a day for you that you're not feeling quite yourself, and I'm sure you have many of those,
Oh,
just
yeah,
as all of the us
sure
humans
do.
do, just remember how you are able to light that spark in others and it'll reignite in you as well.
Well, thank you, Melissa. Thanks for that reminder, and thanks for sparking me up by even just saying that.
Well, it's the truth. It's hard enough to say. So,
Well, I appreciate it. And in that spark, your story sparked me to write a poem about you and about this episode, and so I'd like to share it.
oh, please bring it on.
Uh,
That's a nice thing.
let's bring it on here. Melissa Schultz. When I think of the first butterfly in my tummy, the first time I trusted, the first time I let go, the first time yes felt like yes, the first love and the first heartbreak. All these firsts opened my heart more. Times I thought my heart was closing, it was actually recalibrating to rejuvenate my soul and bring forth more firsts. And in this first time expressing this, my eyes are open, I am present, I am whole, and I'm in love with life. There is always a first time, even if it's the second time around. And
Oh,
that's it.
that is wonderful.
Thank you, and thanks for sparking me up to write that. I really appreciate
Oh,
that.
that is wonderful.
Well, you're
Please send
wonderful.
that to
Thank
me,
you.
Lino.
I will. I'll type it up and I'll send it to you. There, I have to do that for the last guest because yeah, I get inspired by people, and so one of my natural gifts. I started writing when I was like 5 years old. Really, I don't even know where my language was coming from. I kid you not, Melissa. I was writing with metaphors, and as a teenager, looking back, saying, "Did I even know what I was talking about at 5?" I doubt it. So I realized that it's my way of expressing my love is by writing poetry. And so in this gratitude, my attitude of gratitude and giving and receiving, I give my words just as you do. You do the same thing. And so I know you understand it. And just thank you for, holding my hand through this and for being there for me even from a distance. I really appreciate
Well,
it.
that sounds like a collection to me.
It
Your
is.
the poems that you've got and you've assembled through this time in your podcast.
Well, it's
Um,
interesting you say that because I started putting it all together. So this is my 298th episode, and I only started writing poems for my guests maybe the last 150. So typing them all up has been quite a process, but I'm definitely in the middle of typing them all up, and then in the process of once I publish it all, I will reach out to all the guests so that they know that their name is in this poetry book. So it's gonna be a while, but it's fun to keep putting it together.
that's I'm gonna keep encouraging you. Although you're doing it all by yourself, so that was really lovely. But what I especially love is that you kind of really you did go inward and you really talked about some very important firsts
Right.
beyond playfulness,
Right.
but emotionally especially. So I love the way you tune in, and we should all be doing that. So
Right.
very nice.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And then one thing you just said right now, you said that I'm doing it all on my own. I'm actually not doing it all on my own. I'm doing it with your help, and I'm doing it with the help of collectively of the world. So I see what you mean initially when you said that, but I feel it more. I guess I feel everything, all the
You're
energy.
feeling everything. You've got
Yeah,
the
so thank you for this, and I really appreciate you. Everybody, Melissa Schultz here on A Little Less Fear podcast. Pick up her incredible new picture book titled "What Will I Do If I Miss You?" She also has a great article that I highly recommend, and it was on Provoked magazine. Melissa Schultz, where can our viewers, our watchers, and our fans find you and your book?
You can find my book pretty much anywhere books are sold. Amazon definitely has it, Barnes and Noble. And if you look online at your favorite bookstore, they can order it for you if they don't have it in stock. And I'm at melissatschultz.com, and that's Schultz without a C. I'll blame it on my husband, not me. And last but not least, I've been writing for Provoked magazine. I'm a contributor there. So it is a magazine for women over 50, and we talk about the things that are top of mind for women of our generation, especially.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this first time meeting you. I really appreciate your energy and looking forward to keeping in touch with you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to A Little Less Fear podcast. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends and your family about A Little Less Fear podcast. And if you are interested in being on my show, feel free to leave me an email at a little less fear at gmail.com. Or if you have any questions or comments and you also want to leave me an additional message, you can also do so from my website, leaving an inquiry at www.alittlelessfear.com. You can get a copy of my book on Amazon, Amazon Kindle, and Amazon Kindle Unlimited, also titled A Little Less Fear. And thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate all the support. Leave me a review if you get a chance. I love to receive feedback, questions, and comments. And any way that I can be of support to you, please let me know. Thank you so much. I love you. Wishing you love, light, happiness, and many blessings your way.